All right, so as part of the head change here and starting to tune the drum, I just want to give you a couple things right up front as things to remember. So when I'm getting set up to tune a drum, sometimes I'll stand, sometimes I'll sit. It just depends on where I'm working. So you really need to have a pretty quiet environment if you're going to tune by ear, which is mostly what we're talking about. There are some drum tuners available that can filter out a fair amount of background noise. But even if you're using those tuners, you really need to be adept at tuning by ear first so that you know what's happening. So we're really talking about tuning by ear here. And that's important because it makes this musical. Contrary to popular belief among guitarists, drums are musical instruments. And so it's important that we think of them as musical instruments. They are a tensioned instrument. They do have pitches, and we can use those pitches to our advantage. If we don't manage the pitches, they can really fight us in a lot of different ways. In the ears, in the house, all those things can either help us or hurt us. One of the things that I would do as I'm putting the head on, and some of this depends on what brand of head I'm using. There are some differences between the different brands of drum heads. And so if I'm putting an Evans head on, they're sort of pre-tensioned. I don't know how else to describe it. You put the head on and you kind of get it centered and it's pretty much ready to tune. If you're putting a Remo head on, it's a little bit different in that you still set it on there the same way, but once you get a little bit of tension on the head, then you're going to want to go around and kind of press down, and you'll hear a lot of cracking and popping as the head sort of seats in there, and whatever glue they use to assemble the head, it just cracks and pops a little bit. And once you do that, then you'll get a little more tension on it, and you'll go through and just kind of do that again. And at that point, then the head's ready to tune. Why their heads are like that and the Evans heads are not like that, you'd have to talk to those companies about it. There's some other subjective differences between the heads, but those are some of the objective differences. So one of the other things that's important here is just kind of your setup. So when I'm setting up to do a drum, one of the very important things is that I want to be working on one head at a time. So I really need to dampen the bottom head so that it doesn't ring when I'm tapping on the top. And working on a turntable is nice, and it just so happens that a drum throne spins and it has a soft seat on it. So it kind of accomplishes both those purposes. So I will use the drum throne that's on the riser at whatever kit I'm at, or I have one where I'm working, and then I'll just set the drum on there so that the seat is touching the head, and that the seat spins freely, so I can kind of work around the drum without reaching. I can just spin it to me here, so I can do what I need to do with it. So then, because we're working with pitches, one of the most important thing that we do is getting a head in tune with itself. So on this particular drum, there are 6 lugs, and that basically means that this drum is capable of 7 pitches. So I can have individual pitches at each lug, and then they sort of combine to make a pitch that the head makes when you hit it. So, I have this, and then you kind of have that, which is it's almost a different pitch, because in the center you're going to hit it harder, you're going to get that stretch and kind of make another pitch out of it. So what I'm trying to do when I'm tuning is make all 6 of these exactly the same pitch, as close as I can possibly get it, because then they all are working together. You're not getting overtones, you're not getting frequencies that are canceling each other out, and then when we're hitting the drum, it's making a single, pure note, and that's what we're after. So I will often change the top head first on a drum rather than doing the bottom first. It's just a habit. The reason for that is that there are times where we're doing a head change on a drum and we're only changing the top head, we're not changing the bottom head. So I've just gotten into the habit of changing the top head first every time.